All right, buckle up everyone, because today we're diving headfirst into the TON blockchain.
Yeah, and just to be clear, we're not just skimming the surface here, we're going deep.
Exactly. This isn't just about speed, though TON is definitely fast.
It's about rethinking how blockchains are built, how they scale, how they connect.
You know, preparing for this, I felt like I was stepping into a whole new world.
Oh, absolutely. The white paper alone was like reading a sci-fi novel, but in a good way.
Right. Instant hypercube routing and self-healing vertical blockchains.
Don't forget the infinite sharding paradigm. It's a lot to unpack, but that's what we're here for.
Okay, so first things first. TON isn't just one blockchain, right?
Nope, it's a whole network of them. A master chain, work chains, and then shard chains.
So interconnected, but each with its own purpose.
Exactly, and that infinite sharding paradigm, that's where things get really wild.
Yeah, the white paper talks about every account potentially being its own blockchain.
It's mind-blowing, and it's all designed to handle massive scale, millions of transactions.
Most blockchains feel like a single-lane road during rush hour. TON is building a whole highway system.
Exactly, with dedicated lanes for different types of traffic, keeping everything flowing smoothly.
So no more blockchain traffic jams, even when things get busy.
That's the idea, and it gets even cooler. TON uses dynamic sharding. Shard chains can actually split.
Wait, split, like cells dividing.
Kinda. They split and merge based on demand. It's like a highway that magically adds lanes at rush hour.
And then merges them back when traffic calms down. That's incredibly efficient.
It's a game changer. No more waiting forever for a transaction just because the network is overloaded.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all fits together. We've got this multi-blockchain structure, dynamic sharding.
Right, but weaving through all of this is the concept of messaging. It's like the nervous system of TON.
Okay, so if TON is this vast interconnected city, messages are how everything communicates.
Exactly, between accounts, between different blockchains, everything.
And they're not just simple text messages, right?
Oh no, messages in TON can carry value and trigger actions, like smart contracts.
So they're like the delivery trucks and couriers, keeping the city running.
Perfect analogy. And to make sure those messages get delivered quickly and reliably across all those shard chains.
They have that instant hypercube routing thing, right?
Yep, it sounds complicated, but think of it as a super efficient way to navigate the TON network.
Okay, this is a lot, but I think I'm starting to see the bigger picture. We've got the architecture, the sharding.
Right, the messaging system, it's all very impressive, but what fuels this whole thing?
That's where the TON coin comes in, right? The native cryptocurrency of the ecosystem.
Exactly. It's used for transactions, fees, validator rewards, the whole shebang.
And it's got those smaller denominations too, like nanotons and microtons.
Makes it easier for everyday transactions, just like dollars and cents.
So we've got the infrastructure, the fuel, but what about the city itself? What's being built on top of all this?
That's where we move beyond the technical blueprints to the real-world applications.
Right, and that's where the TON network comes in, right?
Exactly. It's built on something called ADNL, the Abstract Datagram Network Layer. Might sound a bit technical.
It does. Can you break that down a bit?
Think of ADNL as the internet infrastructure for the TON city. It allows all the different applications and services to connect and communicate.
So it's the backbone of the TON ecosystem.
Exactly. And within this network, you have the TON DHT, the distributed hash table.
Okay, more tech jargon. What does that do?
It's basically a decentralized directory service. Think of it like a giant phone book, constantly updated.
So users can find the services they need, validators, storage, all that.
Precisely. And speaking of storage, that's where TON storage comes in.
Right, we saw that mentioned. Decentralized file storage, like a super secure Dropbox.
That's the idea. Users can store data and access it through the TON network, adding another layer to this whole decentralized vision.
It's starting to sound like TON aims to be this one-stop shop for all things decentralized.
It's certainly heading in that direction. And one of the most exciting pieces of this is TON payments.
Oh yeah, that caught my eye too. Instant, low-cost transactions, all using this system of payment channels.
It has the potential to change how we think about online payments entirely.
It's like taking the whole idea of transactions off-chain, right? No need to record everything on the blockchain.
Exactly. If we were constantly exchanging TON coins, we wouldn't need to clog up the blockchain every time.
We could open a payment channel, like a separate mini ledger, just for us.
Exactly. And we'd only interact with the main blockchain when opening or closing that channel.
It's like having a running tab at a cafe. You order multiple coffees throughout the day and settle up at the end.
Perfect analogy. Makes things so much faster and cheaper.
Okay, that's super efficient for regular transactions. But what if I want to buy something from someone I don't have a channel with?
That's where the Lightning Network concept comes in. It lets you create chains of payment channels.
So instead of going through a central authority, your payment hops through this network of channels.
Exactly. It finds the most efficient route, even if you don't have a direct connection with the recipient.
That's really clever. So instead of a rigid system, it's more fluid, more adaptable.
And it opens up so many possibilities for how we think about online transactions.
Wow. Okay. We've covered a lot of ground here. Multi-blockchain architecture, dynamic sharding, messaging, Toncoin.
The TON network, ADNL, it's a lot, but I think we're starting to see how it all fits together.
It is like piecing together a giant jigsaw puzzle, and the picture's getting clearer.
But before we get too carried away with all these possibilities, there's one crucial aspect we need to address.
Security, right. In a world where we're moving away from centralized control, how can we be sure our transactions and data are safe?
That's the million-dollar question, and it's something TON takes very seriously. There are multiple layers of security built into the system.
Because it's not just about preventing hacks, it's about building trust in a whole new way.
Exactly, and that's what we'll dive into in the next part of our exploration.
I can't wait. This is getting really interesting.
So, where we left off was this idea of trust, right? How do you build that in a decentralized system?
Yeah, it's a big question. We're so used to relying on banks or big companies for that.
Exactly. But in TON, trust is distributed. It's baked into the very fabric of the network.
Okay, but how does that actually work? Can you give me some specifics?
Sure. Let's talk about overlay networks and multicasting messages. Sounds a bit technical, but bear with me.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Remember ADNL, that abstract datagram network layer we talked about?
Yes.
The infrastructure of TON?
Yeah, the internet of the TON city.
Well, overlay networks are like specialized subnetworks built on top of ADNL. Think of them as express lanes within that city.
Okay, so different lanes for different types of traffic, making things more efficient.
Precisely. And that's where multicasting comes in. Instead of sending messages one by one,
You'd send them to a whole group of nodes at once.
exactly. It's like a group email instead of individual messages. Much more efficient.
Can you give me a real-world example of how that would be used in TON?
Sure, imagine a group of validators, those nodes responsible for confirming transactions.
Right, they need to be on the same page.
Well, multicasting lets the network share transaction data with all of them simultaneously.
Okay, I see how that improves coordination and security. But let's shift gears a bit and talk more about TON payments.
Sure. What specifically interests you?
Well, we touched on payment channels, but how does a user actually access services in this ecosystem?
Great question. TON services, whether they're on-chain smart contracts or off-chain applications, they can expose these standardized interfaces.
Interfaces, like what?
Think of it like a universal language that allows users to interact with services in a predictable way.
So no matter who's running the service, the interface is the same.
Exactly. It's like knowing that any coffee shop, no matter who owns it, will understand your order for a latte.
Makes sense. And TON Payments provides the way to pay for that latte, so to speak.
Precisely. It's all about seamless integration. Now, about those payment channels you mentioned.
Can you remind me how those work again? And why are they so important for TON payments?
Of course. Let's say you're a regular at that coffee shop. Instead of paying for each coffee separately on the blockchain...
Which could be slow and have fees, right?
Exactly. You open a payment channel with the shop. It's like a running tab. You keep track of everything off-chain.
And then settle up at the end. Like having a tab at a bar makes things much smoother.
A perfect analogy. It makes transactions faster, cheaper, and you only interact with the blockchain a couple of times.
That's super efficient.
Yeah.
But what if I want to buy something from a different shop? Do I need a separate channel for every single place?
Not necessarily. That's where the payment channel network or Lightning Network concept comes in.
Right, we touched on that briefly. It lets you create chains of channels connecting to a wider network.
Exactly. So if that coffee shop has a payment channel with the bakery next door,
I can pay for my croissant through them, even if I don't have a direct channel with the bakery.
Precisely. It's like a network of interconnected tabs, super flexible and efficient.
Wow, it's like this whole web of transactions happening almost effortlessly.
It's a glimpse into a truly interconnected digital economy. But there's still one piece of the puzzle missing.
Yeah, how do users and service providers find each other in the first place? It can't be like the old way of searching on Google.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Connecting those two sides is crucial, and that's where the TON DHT comes back into play.
The distributed hash table, right? So it's like a decentralized directory service.
You've got it. Service providers register themselves on the DHT, making it easy for users to find them based on what they offer.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do users know they can trust those service providers? Is there like a reputation system within TON?
That's a great question, and it goes to the heart of one of the big challenges of decentralized systems.
Building trust when there's no central authority to vouch for anyone.
Exactly. TON doesn't enforce a specific solution, but it provides the tools for the community to address this in innovative ways.
So it's like TON provides the foundation, and it's up to the developers and users to build on that.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see some really interesting solutions emerging.
Solutions for building trust and ensuring security in this decentralized world.
Exactly. And in the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore some of those solutions and what the future might hold.
All right, so we've talked about how TON is built for speed, scalability, efficiency, all that good stuff.
We've even peeked into that bustling city of applications and services taking shape on the TO network, remember?
Yeah, it's impressive. But as we keep exploring this decentralized world, the question of trust keeps coming up.
It's unavoidable, right? In the traditional world, we have banks, governments, big tech companies all acting as these guardians of trust.
But in the TON ecosystem, trust is distributed. It's woven into the network itself. How does that actually work?
It's a multi-layered approach. First, you have the blockchain itself, its immutable nature, the consensus mechanisms we discussed.
They all contribute to making transactions tamper-proof and transparent.
Exactly. Even though there's no single authority verifying everything, the network itself acts as this collective guarantor.
It's like a giant distributed ledger that anyone can audit and verify.
That's a great way to put it. And remember, the validators, they play a crucial role in all of this.
Yeah, their stake in the system is on the line if they misbehave.
So they're incentivized to act honestly, to verify transactions accurately. It's a self-regulating system in a way.
Okay, that makes sense for the blockchain itself. But what about the services built on top of it? How do we know we can trust those?
That's where things get even more interesting. TON provides the foundation for trust, but the responsibility ultimately lies with the developers and users.
So it's like the Wild West of innovation. You have the freedom to build what you want, but you also need to be careful who you trust.
It's a good analogy, but it's not a complete free-for-all either. Remember those standardized interfaces we talked about?
All right, the ones that make interacting with services more predictable, like the universal language for ordering a latte.
Well, those interfaces can actually be used to create auditable, verifiable service agreements.
Wait, so users can actually inspect the code behind those interfaces?
Yeah, yep. They can see how a service operates, what data it accesses, all that. No more blind trust.
That's huge for transparency and accountability. You know, in the community forums, there's a lot of talk about reputation systems and decentralized identity.
Those are hot topics for sure. TON doesn't dictate specific solutions, but it provides the building blocks for developers to create them.
So it's like a toolbox, and the community can use those tools to build the solutions they need.
Exactly. We're seeing projects emerge that explore decentralized reputation systems.
Where your reputation is built on your actions, not on some central authority.
Precisely. And for decentralized identity, TON's focus on privacy and security provides a solid foundation.
It's all about giving users more control over their data, their identity, their online experience.
That's the core idea, empowering the community to create a future that's not just decentralized, but also secure and trustworthy.
This deep dive has been quite the journey. We've gone from the nuts and bolts of the TON blockchain to the exciting potential of its ecosystem.
And we've tackled some big questions about trust and security in this new decentralized world.
Yeah, it's clear that we're just at the beginning of a technological revolution.
Decentralized systems like TON have the potential to change everything: how we interact, how we transact, how we build trust.
It's going to be a wild ride, full of challenges and uncertainties, but also a lot of incredible innovation.
That's what makes it so exciting. We're all still figuring this out together.
We encourage you to keep exploring the TON ecosystem, engage with the community, see how this technology is shaping the future.
Who knows, maybe you'll even be inspired to build something amazing on TON yourself.
That's it for this deep dive into the world of TON. Thanks for joining us, and remember, the conversation doesn't end here. Keep exploring.